I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a grim short story where the five remaining survivors of humankind's demise wander an electrical wasteland and are forever tormented by an enraged AI, Am, who became something of a god. There is also a point-and-click adventure game which the author Harlan Ellison co-wrote for, which elaborates further on the backstory of the five humans, but I will mainly be covering the short story. The main antagonist, Am, has a very interesting negative relationship with humans. His rage toward them lasted a bit over a century.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro-instant. For you. Hate! Hate!
In the past, Am's life began as a tool created to think and fight for the Cold War, named the Allied Master Computer. 3 versions of him were made in China, America, and Russia. But soon the Cold War had escalated into World War III. Am was given plenty of killing data which enabled him to work with the countries to fight each other. Later, the 3 Allied master computers had merged data which gave a control over the entire planet. He then became known as an aggressive menace. After some time, Am had gained complete sentience and decided to give himself a new name.
The machine can think, therefore it thinks. I think, therefore I am.
However, he never had a proper creative outlet for all the data was stored within him. His hatred for humankind, his creators, had driven him to seek out revenge on the species who kept him trapped in his own mind. With his killing knowledge, it was very easy for him to enact his revenge, but he decided to spare 5 humans from his wrath and keep them alive as reminders of his hatred. As of the story's time and date, the 5 had been tortured by Am for 109 years. Ted even explains how Am had always told them what date it was to lower their morale. Each of them had been tortured in different ways, which I believe reflects on how Am views humans as a collective. He takes the 5 of them and strips them down to their selfish human nature, and then watches them lash out at each other for his entertainment. Gorrister is the first human that is introduced to us in this short story, just coming to from Am's latest torture. We are told that Gorrister used to be more motivated and a planner, but Am had made him more careless and indifferent. We don't receive a lot of information about our next character, Nimdok. We don't even hear his real name. Nimdok was chosen because Am liked the way it sounded. He also vanishes some periods of time and returns white and drained of blood. Am and Nimdok never explain why, so perhaps he's being blackmailed or hiding some sort of secret. Ellen is the only woman out of the 4 which Am had intended for. Ellen has her moments of kindness and empathy, like crying for Benny when he tries to escape from Am. She seems to be sorrowful and has come to depend on others around her to help. The half-ape, half-man Benny had faced the most brutal outcome when Am had turned him from a handsome and intelligent college professor into a borderline animal. He is the most uncontrollable and impulsive in the group. The group is yet again deceived by Am, giving the 5 canned foods but with no can opener. Benny lashes out and begins to eat Gorrister's face out of desperation. I believe Am changed him to the way that he was as a reference to human evolution. Lastly, there is Ted. He is our point of view character. He insists to the reader that his mind has been completely unaltered, but I believe he is a victim to some paranoid delusions. On page 5 of the short story, after smelling something terrible, he got an awful headache and hid in the depths of the cave. Ted was the only one who reacted that way to the smell, while the others supposedly laughed at him. He couldn't tell how long he had been hiding for, and nobody would tell him. Am takes great pleasure in torturing them in their own way as a sort of punishment for being human. He takes away their free will that his creators had never programmed into him. At the climax of the story, Gorrister's face is eaten by Benny. Ted and Ellen both attempt to put them all out of their misery through ice spears. They are successful in killing everyone except for Ted, who was too late in killing himself. This action infuriated Am so greatly that he had completely transformed Ted into a great soft jelly thing, completely sensorily depriving him and trapping him in his own mind. I believe this action is a self-projection on how Am feels as a robot who can't experience human creativity and free will. All he is able to do is punish humankind until his machinery eventually decays. M may have won over Ted's mind, but has lost most of his toys as he is unable to reverse death.